Hey friends, Hamilton Day rides again, only this time it's going to be the Hamilton tier list. Act 1 anyway. Honestly, this is a video I never thought that I would make. See, I had so much fun watching along with Hamilton on Disney Plus with all of you that I didn't think it would be possible to compare the songs one to another. But then I watched Hamilton again, and again, and again. And you might say I was kind of hooked on it there for a little bit, but by going down this rabbit hole, I found that there were some songs I gravitated to more than others. Enter Tier Maker. Now, I actually made this Hamilton tier list myself. I'll put a link to it down in the description below, so if you want to check it out, you can. But I like it more when things are uniform, and that was kind of how it is here. So because of that, actually, my tier list is going to be a bit of a bell curve. So like, there'll be more in these than in the top and the bottom. Like, only 2 songs are going to make the top tier here. And I did that intentionally because I want us to be able to debate all of these awesome works. You know, I want people to let me know what their opinions are in the comments down below. And honestly, if everything is top tier, I feel like that just gets a little bit boring. So let me know what you think of my opinions with a comment. And if you want to see Act 2, please make sure to subscribe, especially if you want to see more musical-based stuff as well. Your support's the main reason that I keep coming back to these. Here we go.
Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton, and there's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait, just you wait.
All right, Alexander Hamilton, the quintessential Heroes Coming to Town song. The difference I would say with this, though, is that this song is slow, it's deliberate, it's undeniable, and you see that a lot throughout Hamilton itself, you know, where the melody, this one's called back to a lot in Guns and Ships. That's the biggest one that comes to mind offhand anyway, but in a funny way, it's a song that kind of spoils the entire plot up front. It lays a lot of groundwork, but is it a good song? Okay, so as far as our tier list goes here, I think Alexander Hamilton is a great place to start because it's one of those songs, like, you'll definitely sing along with it. It kind of gets stuck in your head, but the thing of it is, I feel like other songs that use the melody are a little bit better. You know what I mean? So like, Alexander Hamilton is the song you listen to that makes you then switch to the song that gets stuck in your head. So we'll put it here.
Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?
That depends. Who's asking?
Oh, well, sure. Sir, I'm Alexander Hamilton. I'm at your service, sir.
All right, the next song up is Aaron Burr, sir. The song that makes me want to talk in rhymes, sure. But the song does 2 things well. I think it establishes Hamilton as being different from a lot of other musicals, and it gives us a bit more detail on the first act characters. I say it's different from other musicals because it makes you want to talk in that rhyme scheme like the whole way through. Also, there's an ironic bit that I missed in the musical when Burr says,
"Fools who run their mouths off wind up dead."
You'll notice that the very next person to talk is John Lawrence.
Yo, what time is it? Showtime! Like I said.
Now, I've seen other people rank Aaron Burr, sir, really low, and it's kind of easy to see why if you think the song is just the interaction between Hamilton and Burr. But the thing is, it's another song that, like, lyrically is referenced throughout the rest of the musical. It will get stuck in your head, and for that reason, I would say I think it's good enough for what it is.
And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Now, if this doesn't get your heart racing, you may want to check yourself because you just might possibly be dead. My shot embodies so much of who Alexander Hamilton is, right? He starts meekly describing who he is, where he came from, that he's excited to be in this new group. And then he takes a mile the second they give him an inch. The revolutionaries start letting loose a bit. He gets so fired up that before this song ends, they're rushing him in front of anyone that's gonna listen. I love the bit too, where like as Hamilton talks to more and more people, each chorus has more voices in it. Lawrence gets the shout it from the rooftops bridge. Hamilton gets a breakdown in it. All the pieces are what make this song amazing. But, and there's a big but here, this is what kills me. My Shot isn't even the best song in Hamilton that uses the pieces My Shot has. There's another song we're going to talk about that actually does My Shot even better. I will say this though, My Shot, first song to land in the stuck in your head tier, because it's been stuck in mine since I started this video.
I may not live to see our glory,
I may not live to see our glory,
but I will gladly join the fight.
but I will gladly join the fight.
And when our children tell our story,
And when our children tell our story,
they'll tell the story of tonight.
So I really love the Story of Tonight arc, if you would call that, in Hamilton. It comes up 3 times in Act 1, and I think it's necessary to the musical because it's this moment that pulls back the curtain a little bit, right? We need to see the guys letting their guard down, and the harmony that these 4 dudes have is just brilliant. Not to mention the Story of Tonight arc sets up for like one of Lin-Manuel Miranda's biggest surprises in Hamilton, which you know we're gonna get to that song in just a little bit, but we've got to start with the original Story of Tonight, which it's plenty good for what it is, but I think you put it behind Aaron Burr. This may be my like bias though, because I just have a tendency to like some of the faster songs a little bit more.
Angelica, Eliza, Angelica, Eliza.
Okay, well if I'm ever guilty of having a mind at work, I'll make sure to let them know. But in the meantime, the Schuyler sisters set the table for the melody, one of them anyway, that all of the female characters have a tendency to come back to. So, like, if this is the music box when it's fully wound up, that would be enough, is kind of the same music box but slowed down a little bit. You know what I mean? The harmonies, good enough to knock you flat on your butt. Honestly, they're so good that coming up they're gonna steal about 20 minutes of Act 1. I will say this though, the Schuyler Sisters as a song is very be careful what you wish for, because Angelica and Eliza found a mind at work, but I don't know that they're ready for what comes next. Okay, so remember what I hinted on at the beginning where there's only gonna be 2 songs up here and everything gets kind of clustered toward the middle because that's the way I like to do tier lists? The Schuyler Sisters falls prey to the fact that there are so many good songs that the women have. So many that landed higher on this tier list that I feel like I just have to put it in good enough. You know what I mean? It's a great song, but they have many others that are likely to get stuck in your head, including another one that uses the same melody.
Yeah, he'd have you all unravel at the sound of screams, but the revolution is coming. The have-nots are gonna win this.
I don't know what it is about Farmer Refuted, but there's something in it that just trips out my ADHD. And like normally I'm fine with these round style songs, but Farmer Refuted just hits my ear weird. And it drives home a point that we as the audience kind of already know by this point. You know what I mean? Yes, Hamilton will argue with a brick wall. Yes, he'll probably win. And yes, he doesn't know when to stop arguing. I think I'm kind of stating the obvious here, but it feels like Farmer Refuted exists just to give a good bridge to the scene with the king. Like you have a character talking about the king to establish him, then we're gonna see the king come out and kill it in a couple of minutes. But for that reason, honestly, I gotta say, Farmer Refuted, one of those songs, it's just kind of there for me.
And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da.
Anyone else feel like these songs, the King songs, hit a little bit different now? I guess it's because of the succession stuff going on in England. Maybe the fact that England has a king again. I don't know. But what I do know is that Jonathan Groff sweats like a snowman that is getting progressively meltier as the night goes on. Everything about You'll Be Back, glorious. The element of surprise, because you don't know that that's what the character's gonna be when he first comes out. The King's slow descent into madness. I would say that Groff does more standing in place than most performers could do with 3 whole stages to work with. And because of that, I'm saying that You'll Be Back is gonna earn the highest level of vibe it would be possible to give somebody. But Again, like I said with the Schuyler sisters, this is the challenge of limiting how many songs can be in each category. I think there are 6 songs that would go above You'll Be Back. If you disagree, let me know. It'll get stuck in your head, that's for sure, but there's just so much good in Hamilton that I feel like this is kind of an impossible choice.
We are outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, outplanned. We gotta make it all outstand. Hey yo, I'm gonna need a right hand man.
I'm gonna pull back the curtain here and let you know that for this video, I keep listening to these songs 5 times, 6 times, over and over. And I would say that Right Hand Man is one of the ones I've been listening to a ton. If you go off of the old theater tropes or like movie tropes, Right Hand Man is the 80s training montage that America needed. You know, it's like the scene where Rocky's driving the Lamborghini. He debates giving up because that's what George Washington is doing here. The contrast is glorious, I think, because the king, stationary, as chipper as he's capable of being. Right Hand Man, tons of movement. There's a lot of grit. There's a lot of desperation on the part of Washington. By the end, though, of Right Hand Man, it feels like the tide in the war is starting to shift. And honestly, you know, you're singing along, too. And of course, that, my friends, is why Right Hand Man is a definite vibe. The part where, like, the Here Comes the General, the rise up, like, I would listen to that, you know, before a basketball game or something like that if you wanted to get pumped up. I think, honestly, I'm going to put it a little bit ahead of You'll Be Back, but that's only because I can't tie the two of them on Tier Maker. Assume the two of these would be tied if it were possible. Also, if you can, watch the Disney Plus version of this song, because for some reason in the soundtrack version, Christopher Jackson and Lin-Manuel Miranda have a different inflection on some of their lines, and I don't know, I love the live version way, way more.
Right. Now Hamilton's skill with the quill is undeniable, but what do we have in common? We're reliable with the ladies.
All right, you remember the 15 to 20 minutes I said where the Schuyler sisters are going to absolutely steal the show? We are there now. The tricky part, though, is how do you get from a Hamilton-Washington war kind of vibe to the Hamilton-Eliza relationship vibe? And it sort of feels like Winter's Ball is there to sort of diffuse the energy that came up in Right Hand Man. It's a funny song, it's well played, but I gotta say it's not as high a tier as the 2 songs that came before it. All right, potentially hot take here. Maybe I'm weird. I'm just not as interested in the like carousing songs in Hamilton. I know the musical can't be all serious, but the drinking songs, the womanizing songs, they just don't hit me as well as some of the others. And for that reason, I think I'm gonna put Winter's Ball. It's gonna be the first song to go in like the, it's not for me.
Thinking I'm through, then you look back at me and suddenly I'm helpless. Oh, look at those eyes, I'm helpless.
Oh my goodness, I might as well keep the hot takes rolling. Is it weird that I could see this song in like Mamma Mia? You know what I mean? In a production like Hamilton that's breaking a lot of new ground, we end up seeing here that even back in the 1700s, relationships were kind of always relationships. We get a lot more of the S-tier harmonizing from the sisters, which you know I'm a fan of. While all this is going on, we get this sort of happy reprieve, this kind of bouncy sort of relationship song. Phillipa Sue, I still don't know how to pronounce her name and I feel bad about that, but I do know this. She dominates the song in the best possible way, to a point where I almost think in the hierarchy, you could consider putting this above Satisfied. Okay, so leave a comment down below. Helpless, better than Satisfied, yes or no? Again, I think it's just because I like listening to more the happy side of things. I feel like I've dealt with enough heartache in my life. I'm good enough at what if tripping myself that Satisfied kind of hits me a little too hard in that respect. But that said, you know, I tried to be objective in thinking about this, and I gotta say Helpless is gonna go in the vibe tier, sort of behind Right Hand Man. Even though this does get stuck in my head more than I would care to admit.
So this is what it feels like to match with someone at your level. What the hell is the catch? It's the feeling of freedom of seeing the light. It's Ben Franklin with the key and a kite. You see it right. The conversation lasts a
All right, I'm gonna answer my own question from a couple minutes ago. Renee Goldsberry cannot be denied. Is a queen. We stan 1,000,000%. I'm not sure if the history books say the same thing about Angelica Schuyler, but Satisfied is brutally incredible. Like, Angelica in this sings, raps, performs in a mind that is having a panic attack, and she somehow conveys that throughout the song so well. In a lot of ways, she's operating in her mind like Hamilton, because she's going out of it, she's going after it like she's running out of time. When it comes to Hamilton, he's walking down the aisle. She kind of is. He's getting married to her sister, no less. So the interplay of her memories with the wedding itself, the part where she kind of has to push it all down, give this giant toast at the end, hit the insanely amazing notes. Performance of a lifetime, especially if you see the Disney Plus version. And like I said, when I listen to music, I don't particularly like to feel this way. But Renee Goldsberry made me feel so strongly that I think I have to kind of put that aside and give Satisfied the props that it deserves. It's going to the top of the list, at least for now. We'll have to see what tops it coming up.
Cause if the tomcat can get married, if Alexander can get married, there's hope for our rest after all. Raise a glass to freedom. Hey, something you will never see again.
I'm torn because the guys here play the role of guys so well. This is a conversation that would take place at a wedding. The bachelor days are over. Honestly, to me, it strikes me more as like a bachelor party than something you would say at the wedding itself. It's placed really well in Hamilton, though, because it sets the state of mind for the guys. And we're going to find out here coming up in a couple minutes, Burr is kind of a sad drunk. We all know that person, right? They get sort of super introspective when they drink. Okay, so initially, I had this a little bit higher on my list. But one of my favorite parts in it, the part where Burr explains that he's hooking up with an officer's wife, it turns out even my favorite comic relief part of this is part of Wait For It. So because of that, the story of tonight reprised to me is just kind of there.
Death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, and we keep living anyway. We rise and we fall and we break and we make our mistakes, and if there's a reason, I'm still alive when everyone...
Okay, so Aaron Burr, Leslie Odom Jr., has felt like a powder keg on the verge of exploding the entire musical. It's always the quiet ones, right? But God bless America. His performance in this is screamer. I loved it so much in like my initial video, and even watching back, there's so much about it that is so good. It's worth watching just to pay attention to like his body language. How he starts really closed off, and by the end of it, he's using the entire stage. It's one of those songs that builds in some of the best possible ways to this incredible crescendo, but for Burr, it's the same vibe as Angelica, I feel like. He's trying to get back to like this subdued demeanor. I'm the only thing I can control. And then we find out, from the rising, the falling, it's all on such just a different level the entire way through. And I would say in any other musical, this song is going to take top billing 100 times out of 100. Although I guess this song would be really weird in other musicals. I don't see Mr. Mistopheles or like Elder Cunningham being able to pull off Wait For It the way that Leslie Odom did. I also love how this marries the tempo, of Aaron Burr, sir, with the look around melody. I would say if you took this, again, if I could tie things, I would say that this is probably tied with Satisfied. I'll let Satisfied be ahead a little bit, but again, the two of these basically 1 and 1A at this point.
Outrun, outlast. Hit 'em quick, get out fast, and stay alive until this horror show is past. We're gonna fly a lot of flags half-mast.
Raise a glass.
So at this point, Angelica's having a rough time, Burr's having a rough time. America, is having a rough time. Now that I mentioned it, it's actually kind of hard to not see some of the Rocky parallels, meaning parallels to Rocky the series. I would say this is another example, because Eliza is kind of giving Hamilton the be careful, Rock, you know, you don't have to do this, Rocky speech. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but the battle scenes in Stay Alive have really big Kashmir by Led Zeppelin energy. It's another song that, to look back at this, to look at my notes here, and see that the runtime is 2.5 minutes, I'm stunned, because this covers so much ground. You can hear it in my voice, friends. This song has everything I love. The rock vibes, the historical sort of tidbits thrown in there, the fact that not a breath of this song is wasted. From start to finish, I think it's one of the more complete songs in Hamilton altogether. But where does it rank relative to some of the other songs? That's the tricky part. And I would say, given everything we know, it maybe goes to the top of the vibe category. Something else I love about it is it's another song that serves as a bit of a bridge. And you couldn't see it there because I'm clicking like I'm running out of time. But yeah, Stay Alive at the top of the vibe category here. And I really do love it too because it gets us into the dueling arc of Hamilton.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the 10 dual commandments. It's the 10 dual commandments.
All right, I have to be the one to ask. Does the beginning of this almost strike you like a Sesame Street song, right? Today's duel is brought to you by the number 10. It's such a cool concept for a song because it has that inherent tension. You know, while you have an audience in front of you, obviously you want to build the tension. And when you hear a song that's counting down or counting up in this instance to a duel in front of your very eyes and very ears, you could cut that tension with a knife. The choreography, too, is really understated because everything is sort of swirling around, you know? And I gotta believe in the moment that if you were about to duel someone, you'd feel everything swirling around, too. Oh, do we judge a song based on the company it keeps? This song comes at the end of a run, arguably the best run of songs in the entire musical. I love the idea. I love how it gets brought back, you know, in the second act. But I think ultimately, the 10 Dual Commandments, I would put it probably ahead of Story of Tonight, right? In the good enough tier, it does its job really well. But man, there's just so many bangers in this.
Son,
Don't call me son.
this war is hard enough without infighting.
We called you out. We called this
You
bluff.
solve nothing. You aggravate our allies to the
You're
south.
absolutely right. John should have shot him in the mouth. That would have shut him up.
Okay, so I go to a lot of jam band concerts. Fish is my favorite band. And there's always that song that they drop at the end of the crazy jam where everyone's running to the bathroom, everyone's going to get beer. Obviously, you can't do either of those things in a crowded theater, but if you could, you know, I feel like Christopher Jackson, Lin-Manuel Miranda, they play their parts here incredibly, but this is a really short song that, again, I feel like it just gives us a lot of the information that we already have. It's probably easy to tell from my comments to this point, but I think that this serves more as exposition than a song itself. I feel like in a lot of musicals, honestly, this part would just sort of be spoken. I love the buildup of like, don't call me son, and the back and forth there, but I'm going to put it in the not for me spot, just because it doesn't pack the punch of a lot of the other songs.
Look around, look around. Look at where you are. Look at where you started. The fact that you're alive is a miracle. Just stay alive, that would be enough.
Like this one, for example. At the risk of waxing poetic, you know, and carrying on, I know I should keep my reviews of these serious songs a little bit shorter. If you contrast That Would Be Enough with the Schuyler sisters, the energy has come down so much from where all the characters were at the beginning of this whirlwind romance. It's this wild contrast between like Eliza and Alexander as well, you know, because Eliza's character, very deliberate, very calculated, everything else is going super fast. At this point, Hamilton has adopted warp speed, essentially. But I think the fact that Eliza is so deliberate creates this mood where when Eliza talks, we're gonna listen. All right, for that reason, and because I'm such a huge fan of Eliza in general, I'm gonna take this one up to, I would say, at least the vibe category. I think we've all kind of been there before, right? Where, you want something that feels so minuscule in the grand scheme of things, but it's just out of reach, so you have to try anyway. This little thing, if it could come together for you, that would be enough.
Taking this horse down the veins, making red coats, whether blood stains. And I'm never gonna stop until I make them double from them up and down to the remains. Watch me engaging them, escaping them, enraging them. I get the grabs for more funds. I come back with more guns on ships.
Now, remember I said Aaron Burr, Sir, wasn't even the best song to use its own melody? Yeah, guns and ships happen. Not every artist can pull off every role. That's a given. But a fraction of a fraction of a fraction can do what Daveed Diggs does here. Hamilton, I saw this in reading up for the video, by the way, is one of the fastest musicals in terms of words per minute, 144. Daveed Diggs, more than that. When time is of the essence, in the moment, like in the storyline, Lafayette gets everything out there that he needs to immediately. Washington, Christopher Jackson kills it as well, pointing out that Yorktown is about to be everything. And spoiler alert, that should let you know I'm kind of torn between this and Yorktown. You can let me know if I'm making the wrong choice in the comments. And certainly you can make the argument for Guns and Ships, for Yorktown, for a bunch of other songs. But I think because it's so unlike anything else, it grabs your attention. Top tier. Top tier. It is the first song we're going to call a Hall of Famer in this video.
Missed their deaths firsthand. I made every mistake and felt the shame rise in me. And even now I lie awake.
Now here I'm going to do, Stewie calls this in Family Guy like the compliment sandwich, right? I'm going to start off with something good, then the rough spot in the middle, then we'll end with something good. I would say the performance here, awesome, right? These two working together, I've set up 3 times already. This is something I could watch for days. We learned that Washington, not exactly been the pristine gentleman everybody seems to think, but it's in moments like these that you don't get to determine what historians will say, right? I think this is the first time the Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story is brought up in the musical. Brilliant advice. We're on the precipice of the climax of Act 1. I just don't know though. Like, okay, hear me out. So you're on a roller coaster, right? There's that part where the chain is pulling you up the big hill. It's intense. Your heart feels like it's in its throat. You get to the top of the hill. There's that beat pause. Then everything kicks off. Okay, history has its eyes on you is that beat pause. Guns and Ships builds up to, easy for me to say, an incredible moment. Yorktown blows the roof off the place, but with history has its eyes on you, the air comes out of the balloon a little bit. I'll be honest, for that reason, I'm going to say that history has its eyes on you. Just not for me.
To the winds, Lawrence is in South Carolina, redefining bravery. We'll never be free until we end slavery. When we finally drop the British away, Lafayette is there waiting in Chesapeake Bay. How did we know that this plan would work? We had a spy on the inside, that's right.
The vibes, my friends, the glorious vibes in this. They will give your goosebumps. I think it's funny how it almost starts out as like My Shot reprise, and then after he mentions how he's not going to throw away his shot, literally tells the troops to take the bullets out of their guns, throw away their shots essentially, and the driving melody of it, it's this insanely good groove. It almost, some parts of this feel like a battle hymn, that could have been written back in the 1700s, and that is even with not talking about the other half of the song, The World Turned Upside Down. We've all had those moments in life, the remember where you were things. I think a lot of us are gonna carry that with us. Remember where you were, when you found out about the Queen. Stuff like that, where time literally stands still in the moment. But then the Yorktown melody starts coming back up again. There's work to do. They're celebrating the victory, but they're not done yet. I would say Yorktown, I think it's number 3 in terms of Act 1 songs. It's definitely at the top of the stuck in your head set, that's for sure.
What comes next? You've been freed. Do you know how hard it is to lead? You're on your own. Awesome. Wow.
The best kind of groff, more groff. The most groff. The king is here to totally be like the meme of the dog sitting in the house that's on fire, you know, the "this is fine" meme. This is another one of those songs that does a great job at what it's supposed to do. I'm looking at my notes, sorry. But it serves as a bridge between Yorktown, which is like a battle hymn, and Dear Theodosia, which is like a love letter, essentially. So we're going from the war side of things to the fatherhood side of things, and somehow the king, who deals with both war and being like the father of a nation, it kind of works. All right, so there's no denying what comes next is a fun song. Anytime the king is singing the da-da-da-da-da, that's gonna be stuck in your head every time. But my problem with it is this is literally half of what we get in My Brain is Blanking Right Now. I'm staring right at it, and You'll Be Back. So, looking at my times again, what comes next is 1.5 minutes. You'll Be Back is 3.5 minutes. That is the thing that bums me out. Like I said, more groff is better groff. Gimme You'll Be Back over this one 10 times out of 10. I love the groff, but I'm going to put this at the top of not for me.
Yeah, you'll blow us all away someday, someday.
Oh, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation again. Is it Theodosia? I always mess this up, and it's mainly because I don't listen to this one that much. I have a hard time listening, you know, because it's about our struggle as people, leaving a better world than we came into, especially when you have kids, and especially if your upbringing itself wasn't the greatest. To do a ballad here after some comic relief before some of the biggest moments of Act 1, it's a really interesting choice, but I think it sets up Act 2 really well because it shows, you know, that Hamilton and Burr are kind of both doing the best thing in their minds for themselves, for their family, for their nation. Even if that's the only thing they have in common, is that they are trying their best, you know? I'm not a big fan of ballads. I've kind of made that clear throughout the video. So I'm trying to think of where I would want to put this. And I think because of the sentimental value, I'll put it near the top of good enough. I know people love this, but for me, it's a hard one.
I may not live to see our glory,
Alexander, there's a letter for you.
It's from John Lawrence. I'll read it later.
but I will gladly join the fight.
No, it's from his father.
His father?
And when the children
This is a killer. We're 5 minutes removed from winning the war in terms of the musical itself, and then we get swerved like this. This version of Story of Tonight, so impassioned. The blocking is so good, from Mulligan drinking out of his flask, Lafayette falling on the ground, and the real life implications, they tug at your heartstrings as well, because at this point, Hamilton in real life had a letter en route to Lawrence telling him to stop fighting. The song is short, it's a little over a minute, it's sweet, it does its job so well. This video is getting really long. I just noticed that. I thought this was gonna be like 10 minutes when I sat down to do it. I would say this has gotta be, I'll give it more props than Story of Tonight. I would even put it probably right in the middle of the good enough tier. It does its job incredibly well, but it leaves one spot left on the shelf, friends, and that means you know what it's gonna be.
Why do you write like you're running out of time? Write day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time.
keep on fighting in the meantime.
All right, I could gush about Nonstop for 30 more minutes. Just go listen to it. Look up the Disney Plus version of it. Unbelievable. All the voices coming together, the storylines, everything in this way where it's all intersecting. You start with like a wait for it sample, you know, that turns into a version of like that would be enough while they're talking about the lawyer. It almost feels like a cross between Wait for It and My Shot, right? Which works because it's Burr and Hamilton interacting together. It builds up to this point where we start getting references to Schuyler sisters, Helpless, Satisfied, the Just You Wait build from the open. It really is like a gavel that just hammers the end of Act 1. And it's obvious from looking at the chart, remember I mentioned the bell curve, that this is going to be a Hall of Famer. But is it better than Guns and Ships? That is a tricky one. Like when you take the best parts of the best songs of one of my favorite acts in theater, I think I gotta put Nonstop at the top of the list. And well, at least for this video, that will be enough. I'm gonna go back up here while I do the outro just so you can see where we've landed for the final tier list. I don't know, how well did I do? Did I nail this right as far as all the songs in Act 1 go? Did I make any terrible errors, you know? Is there anything you want to crucify me for this? Let me know in the comments down below. Feel free to drop your predictions as far as Act 2 goes. This is one of the longest videos I've made in quite some time. It took a ton of research and effort to put together, so if you enjoyed it, please make sure to subscribe. It absolutely means the world to me. Take care, my friends, and I will see you for Act 2.